49ers, sitting with about $3-ish million in cap space coming in. They're just right above the Cardinals in terms of amount of cap space ranking in the NFL. They have a couple potential cuts they can make to free up some cap space, but I'm not going to go too far into that because I'm not too familiar with players themselves. But in terms of free agents of their own, offensive guard Laken Tomlinson. Let's see, who else? Running back Raheem Mostert. And then on the defensive side, you have DJ Jones, cornerback Williams, Jason Verrett, edge Arden Key, and safety, this is a bigger one, Jaquiski Tart. So what do you think the 49ers do here?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think you got to think about the Jimmy G situation. He's set to make over $30 million next year, I believe. So you could trade him or you could bring him back. Either way, you got to at least consider your options on that front. And then for me, the number one priority would probably be bringing back Laken Tomlinson, their right guard, I believe, who had a pretty good year last year. I think he'll be asking for around $6 to $8 million per year, which is doable if they can move some salary around. And there's also a clause in NFL salary cap where you can pull money from next year into this year to add to the salary cap currently. So if they were to do that or use some type of void years on certain contracts to bring him in, that would be doable. And then I think you got to make sure you keep the depth on your defensive line, because that was the heart and soul of your defense. Your secondary was really solid, but I think those guys in the secondary aren't irreplaceable. I think the depth that you had on defense is what made that defense special. So K'Waun Williams, DJ Jones, I think those guys are guys you really need to consider bringing back. Or if you don't, you have to have a backup plan to replace those guys in your rotation of defensive linemen.
Yeah, I agree with you. First, address the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. I think they're probably going to end up trading him. They could probably fetch a third-round draft right now on the open market for him, somewhere in that range, I think. I think there are teams that are desperate for a quarterback, and he could be a potential stopgap for them, since it's not a particularly amazing quarterback draft class. And he's certainly capable as long as he stays healthy, and that's obviously the big question. He's coming off a big shoulder surgery to address the following that in his throwing shoulder. So that's obviously might come into this, his health. But I do think there are teams that would obviously take him for a year or two. You could fetch some draft compensation. So address the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. I do think since you drafted Trey Lance super high and you even traded up to get him, you got to just move forward with the younger, better, more athletic option at quarterback. I do agree, bring back Laken Tomlinson, interior offensive line as one of their needs. So if they were just even more urgent, but I do think they can get him on a pretty good deal. So I'd consider bringing him back. Then keep the depth on defense. Probably pretty cheap. I'd bring him back. K'Waun Williams, I don't know a lot about him. I don't, not that far into this stuff, but probably bring him back on a cheaper deal. They have another guy, Maurice Hurst. I don't know too much about him, who's a free agent. Arden Key, a good depth piece on the edge. Maybe think about bringing him back on a cheap deal. In terms of Jaquiski Tart, I don't know what you do with him. I don't know how much money he's going to be asking for, but if you can get him on a bargain, maybe think about that. And then Raheem Mostert, at the end of the day, heard a lot. I think he's pretty expendable. Have a young guy ready to step in, and Trey Sermon that played well at times. And they obviously have the 6th-round draft pick of last year that obviously was a revelation in Elijah Mitchell. The 49ers, they're a well-run franchise. They tend to draft pretty well, so I'm not too worried about what they're able to do with limited cap space. They tend to draft and develop pretty well, and that's why they're in this position. Just, focus on the quarterback situation, get that out of the way, and then this offensive line, a lot of older guys. I think they need to get a little younger in that part, and then keep the defense intact and add some depth, if you will. So I ultimately agree with you, the 49ers.
Yeah, it's ultimately pretty simple for the Niners. You fill in the guys that you can in free agency, and then the gaps you don't fill, you fill through the draft, as they've done extremely well the last few years. So nothing too crazy with the Niners. So with that, we can move right along. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to click on one of these 2 videos right here, our latest video right here on the left, or the video YouTube recommends for you on the right.